how do we settle into New Zealand? How do we find a place to live, find a car, find places to eat, do shopping, things like that? It wasn't as hard as you think. The beautiful thing is right now you can do everything online. Before you even move to a country, you can start getting your accounts set up. You can find a place to live. Uh, Once you have a place to live, if you've signed the lease, you can actually use that address to start setting up other administrative accounts. So it's very helpful. I found our apartment online, put down the deposit, and signed the paperwork from New York, sight unseen. I got lucky. It was a beautiful apartment. We got lucky. We were in a fantastic neighborhood. But you could do that, and it's a great way to get started because the day you land on the ground, you have a place to go. You're not staying at a hotel. You're not desperately searching for something. You've already decided on where you are. And if you don't like where you are when you get there, then you can always find a way to move. But at least you have a home base. And that was super critical because I felt like I had a place all set up for me, and I had a place to go when I got to the country. So from the airport, I went to the real estate agent and to get the key. And the real estate agent drove me to my apartment. That's how nice people are here. They said, "Oh, you took a taxi from the airport? Well, let me take you." So he loaded all of my luggage into the back seat of his car and drove me over to the apartment and let me in. When I got into the apartment, the owner had left a bottle of wine and flowers and a gift basket with chocolate in it, welcoming me to the country and welcoming me to this apartment. I didn't stay at some luxury apartment, if that's what you're thinking. It was just a little apartment somewhere, but it was so nice, and I felt so welcome right away. It was just a beautiful, beautiful experience. Same with the car. I'd purchased the car before I even got to New Zealand. My wife is in love with minis. Her father had a mini when she was a kid. She wanted to have a mini, so I thought, what a great surprise for her to buy a mini, and that's what we'll tootle around in New Zealand. So I looked online, I found one, and again, sight unseen. I had done the background check that you can do on cars online, so I checked it out. It was pretty good. I put a $500 deposit down on it, and they held it for me so that when I showed up in New Zealand a few weeks later, after I put it on hold, it would still be there in the lot and not sold off. Did the test drive. The car was great, loved it, and I purchased it on the spot. It took about another week for all of the paperwork to go through, the VIN numbers of registration, whatnot, license plates. And then I was able to go pick it up the following weekend and have a car. So 2 weeks after arriving, I had a car, and I'm tootling around in that. That was fantastic. What about a driver's license? Well, that was incredibly easy because in New Zealand, your American driver's license is a one-to-one translation. So I showed up at the AA office, which is not Alcoholics Anonymous. It's the insurance company here. AA, it's kind of like AAA, same thing. And I hand them my American driver's license, and they hand me a New Zealand driver's license. All I had to do was get an eye check, and that was it, which is probably bad because I didn't have to take a driver's test, so I didn't know any of the road rules. They drive on the left here. They don't drive on the right, so they trusted me to be able to drive properly. They have roundabouts, which are more confusing than they need to be, not because roundabouts are confusing, but because that's how they are here in New Zealand. They're not made correctly, I don't think. And I got to learn how roundabouts work when a policeman pulled me over for cutting him off in the roundabout, and he explained it very nicely to me. Didn't give me a ticket. Policemen are super nice here. You wouldn't believe. Getting a driver's license, getting a car, getting an apartment, not as hard as you might think. Getting a bank account, super easy. Walk in, set it up. Do know, obviously, that once you file your taxes, you need to file your FBAR that shows that you have an overseas bank account, but that's a whole different thing we're not going to talk about. Setting up your phone. I had an AT&T phone when I came to New Zealand. I got it unlocked, and I was able to use that same phone here. So I went to Spark. They set it up. They had it on my phone. I'm ready to go. And they said, "Oh, it's going to take a few days for the billing to go through. Come back and give us your card then, and we'll settle it then." So that meant I walked out of the cell phone store with full cell phone service, texting and everything, and I hadn't paid a cent. So for the next week, while they were working on getting my account set up, I was making phone calls and everything else I needed to do on my phone. I had Wi-Fi and hadn't paid a dime. That's how trusting they are in New Zealand. They know that you're going to pay eventually. They're not worried about it. It's amazing. I don't think I ever experienced that anywhere in the US. Going out to eat, restaurants. Well, the beautiful thing about living in Auckland is that it's an incredibly international city. It has as much diversity as Queens in New York. There are people here from all over the world, and they've all brought their cuisine with them. So, whereas New York might have 10 Ethiopian restaurants, Auckland might have one, but they do have one. So, we were able to find all of our favorite foods from New York here in Auckland. We thought we'd miss Lauderay macarons, but they have them here. We thought we'd miss those French pastries, but they have them here. Pretty much everything you could possibly want, you will find in Auckland. They also have supermarkets for all of those ethnicities. So if there's a particular ethnic food, or you are of a particular ethnicity and you want that food from that country, you can find it here. It's quite amazing. Anything that you want. How about the things we were not happy about? So culture shock. Obviously, no matter where you move in the world outside of America, you're going to experience some form of culture shock. For me, the biggest one here in New Zealand has been the cold. Don't let those postcards of palm trees and beaches fool you. They fooled me. I thought it was going to be nice and toasty here. I didn't bring any cold weather gear. I didn't even bring a jacket when I moved here from New York because I thought winters and summers equally beautiful here. Wrong. It turns out in Celsius, anything under 18 degrees or at 18 degrees, and you're going to start to feel cold and you're going to want to wear some extra layers. So when I came, I hadn't had a jacket. I had to wear my suit jacket everywhere I went, like some kind of weirdo. Even going to the beach, I'm wearing a suit jacket. I had to buy gloves, and gloves were $70 at the shop that I went to. Just ridiculously expensive here when it comes to that sort of thing. So I hadn't found the cheaper places yet at that time. So it is freezing here, and a lot of the houses are not insulated or inadequately insulated. A lot of the houses don't have double glazed windows. They have single glazed windows. A lot of the houses don't have heating at all. There's no heat pumps. You might, if you're lucky, have a fireplace. So it's cold here. The shops leave their doors open in winter. You might go to a cafe and the cafe is wide open like it's in LA or something, but it's 5 degrees outside and it's just freezing everywhere you go. It is absurd, but it's a cultural thing. They don't see anything weird about it. So you will suffer. You will suffer. I still suffer. I'm cold right now making this recording because we're going into winter now. You get paid monthly, which is harsh. So the first month I was here, hadn't gotten paid anything. So that was a trick. So make sure when you move, you do have a little bit of savings set aside so that you can survive the first few months before you get paid. The cost of living here, good God, it's outrageous. I had no idea how cheap America is. America is such a lucky country. Everything you buy here is going to be more expensive than you would expect it to be. If you double the number, you're not even close half the time, especially when it comes to professional services. So I work in construction, and I used to have to estimate how much a job would cost. If I thought it would cost $10,000 to build something, then I would think, well, I better double that. I would double it to $20,000. The price would come back in at $40,000. So something that would cost $10,000 to build in America would cost $40,000 to build here, like a deck or something simple like that. But it's not that, it's everything. And that's largely because New Zealand imports all of its goods. Let me put it into dollar terms for you. Assume you're going to be making the same salary that you did in America. So let's say you're making $80,000 a year in America. When you come and get a job here, you'll be making $80,000 a year here for the same job roughly. But the buying power of that $80,000 is with the exchange rate. So I think it's 65 cents to the dollar, a little over half. So it's almost like you'll be making $40,000 a year because of the cost of living expenses. So essentially you'll be paying American prices making New Zealand dollars. It does get expensive and it's quite a shock. I would say overall our quality of living here compared to New York is much lower, but the quality of life is much higher, if that makes sense. The things that we buy are ridiculously expensive, which means you won't be buying things on Amazon and all the little stupid things you purchase every week that shows up in your box because it's cheap. You won't be buying those things anymore. But you know what? You can live without them. One of the things that was hard to get used to was the accents. Kiwi accents are a little tricky. They have strange vowels. If you look up the Kiwi accent on the NZ Air, they have a great video about it for NZ Air as a safety video talking about the Kiwi accent as a perfect example. I'll put the link in the comments. But yeah, the accents are hard. Not only that, but they also use a lot of other words. Obviously, they have British words, but they also have Kiwi words that you're not familiar with, like lollies are candy. You know that lift is an elevator, but they'll also say brekkie for breakfast. They shorten it. They say things like you need a chili bin, which is, I don't even know what it's called anymore. I'm so used to calling it a chili bin. It's a cooler. So these are all things that you're going to have to learn when you move here. And one of the side effects of that, interestingly, was that you start speaking less confidently. So after moving here, I found that there's an equivalent word for almost every word that I use, and I constantly wonder if I'm using the right word. And so I think my speech is less sure, and I tend to stutter more often. Very strange thing, but I wouldn't worry about that. Christmas is going to happen what feels like July. The summers here are glorious. I know I had maligned the winter. It's quite cold, but the summers are to die for. The beaches are fantastic. Everywhere you go is going to feel like a postcard. So in the summer is when we have our Christmas break, and everyone gets 2 weeks off between Christmas and New Year's. So almost no matter what job you work in, unless it's maybe hospitality, then you're going to get 2 weeks off. It's fantastic. So it is strange to go to the beach with your Christmas tree or to be wearing shorts while you're opening presents, but it's worth it. The last one that I would mention is island time. Yeah, they do things slow here. In New York, you send an email, and if you haven't gotten a response in 15 minutes, you call the person and say, hey, did you get my email? So here, you send an email, and you're lucky if you get a response in a week, maybe 2. And at first I thought people were just incredibly lazy, but that's because we have a very small workforce. Like I said, everything's in demand. And so people are quite busy. You might send your email, and the reason it takes them a week to respond is because they're still responding to the ones they got a week ago. You're basically getting in line. Things take much longer here than you would expect, much, much longer than in New York. It takes months to sign a contract as opposed to, a day in New York because everyone has a common contract, whatever. We got an introduction to this kind of time warp thing when we moved in. We'd been waiting, as I said, for 3 months for our furniture to arrive. It shows up in port. It gets transferred to the movers, and the movers call us and say, all right, we're going to be there this morning to unload your things. Get ready for us. So we stuck around all morning waiting, and no one showed up. They didn't show up until the afternoon, well after lunch. And when they did, we were understandably angry, and we asked them, what happened to you guys? You told us we were going to be here at like 8 a.m. and now you're here at 2 o'clock? The guys actually said to us, oh yeah, we were on our way, but it was a beautiful day, so we stopped off at the beach and we went swimming. Who does that? In America, not only would you not do that, but you would never admit to doing it if you did. You would never openly tell a customer that you set them aside and went swimming. So that was absurd to us. But I have to say the flip side of that scenario is fantastic because yes, things are slower here, but it also means that you can take life a bit slower. You're not going to be stressed out. You're not going to feel like you have to do everything right now. So when you have the opportunity to go swimming, you'll feel like, oh, why don't I do that? And you will happily go swimming on your lunch break or go out and spend a day off at some point. When you tell your boss here that you have a family emergency or that you need to stay home with your kid, they're very much more likely to say, oh, great, yeah, absolutely, go do that. We'll have somebody cover for you. Rather than in America, where you don't even want to mention that you have kids half the time because you're afraid it's going to hurt your employment prospects. So yeah, we're on island time. It's nice. It really is. Everything takes longer, but you're going to love it that way. I guarantee it. So what I do miss, though, I guess I miss family and friends, but you're going to meet new people. And the beauty of today is that you have WhatsApp so that you can still call your friends. You can still feel like you're close. You're on social media all the time. Chances are, and I'm just making a wild guess here, but I bet a lot of your friends you haven't seen in 6 months anyway. You feel like you have because you talk to them all the time or you're on social media with them, but you haven't actually visited them in their house or anything. So it's going to be the same thing when you move here. You're still going to be in touch with those people, so it's all right. I do miss road trips. America has the best road trip potential. I don't know about everywhere in the world, but I've been in 35 countries and I love driving in America. The roads are nice and wide. They're straight. You can drive for hours and hours. There's convenience stores and gas stations wherever you want to stop. There's nice hotels. There's cheap hotels. Everything I just said is the exact opposite in New Zealand. Here, the roads are incredibly narrow. They're like goat paths. I drive a Mini and I'm afraid. I feel like I'm 2 inches away from every car that I go by on the road. And they love to mountain drive, so they're frequently across the line when you come around a corner. The roads are not straight. They weave and wind. You feel like a rally car driver or something. You get great abs just from driving here. The hotels are god awful. They haven't been updated since the 70s. And it takes a while to get used to it. After a while you do, and it's a pleasant experience. But they're not. They're ancient hotels. But where a similar hotel like that might cost, I don't know, $50 to stay in America, they cost a minimum of $170 a night here. So staying in a hotel is stupidly expensive here. There are no Red Roof Inns. There's no Motel 6, Motel 8, nothing like that. One of the things that you need to understand about moving overseas is that you quickly start a new life there. And you'll have new friends, a new job, new problems, new solutions. Everything in your life, everything that you're experiencing in your life now, you're going to experience in your new life. So it isn't that different. A lot of people look at it as if they're making a massive change, like they're moving to Mars or something, and that everything is going to have to change. It's not. Everywhere else in the world is not much different from America. You're going to go to work. You're gonna wake up. You're gonna go to work. After work, you're gonna come home and have dinner and watch TV. On the weekends, you're gonna go out. Maybe you go out to eat. You hang out with your friends. Honestly, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. You're gonna do those things. So life quickly gets back to normal. So you won't miss much in America after maybe 6 months to a year. That's the beauty of living overseas. And that's something to look forward to, because right now you might be thinking, if I move overseas, wow, that's such a big change. I'm really afraid of making that change. I don't know if I can do it. Well, of course you can. You're doing it right now. You're just going to be doing exactly what you're doing today in a different place, without all that anger and politics and fear and climate change and problems. So that's the good news.
So what are you waiting for?
If you're thinking seriously about leaving America, especially if you want to move to New Zealand, check out our sponsor, VBI.NZ. That's NZ to us Americans. You can book an appointment with someone who can answer your questions about immigration and help you understand your strengths moving overseas. The link is in the show notes below. Please subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment, let me know what you think. Are you planning to leave America? What are your reasons? And where would you go? I want to hear about it. See you soon, or as we say in New Zealand, see you out there.